Good afternoon. My name is Ruth Oshikanlu, and this afternoon we're going to be talking about the management of sleep problems in infants and toddlers. So we'll start with an outline of what we'll be discussing. We're going to be considering the overview of baby sleep patterns, reasons for poor sleeping patterns. We'll focus on how every baby is unique, the management of poor sleeping patterns, and the practitioner's role in supporting parents. So, as a baseline, I just asked this two questions. Obviously, they're rhetoric questions. How often do you encounter parents whose babies or toddlers have sleeping problems? Do you feel confident in supporting them? So, hopefully, by the end, we'll have some tools to support parents whose babies or toddlers have sleeping problems. This is a book I wrote and published last year entitled Tune Into Your Baby, because babies don't come with an instruction manual. And I wrote it because there were so many questions parents wanted answers to. How to know what their baby needs, how do they know they're doing the right things for their babies, how can they make the worrying and anxiety about caring for their baby go away, and how can they enjoy parenting their babies. So, as part of researching for the book, I read a lot about sleep and attended sleep workshops, and I've used the advice contained in the book to support many parents whose children or babies or toddlers have sleep problems. At first, I didn't feel confident about supporting them, but having undertaken some research on sleep and how to manage sleep problems, I do feel more confident and competent in supporting those parents. So, why is sleep important? Well, we could start with what happens if we don't sleep. So, the effects of sleep deprivation. Firstly, on parents. Parents who are sleep deprived, they have an increased incidence of accidents and injuries. Their cognitive processes are slowed down, so they have poor concentration, forgetfulness, impaired judgment, and lack of sleep eventually does lead to serious health problems like heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes. Mothers who don't sleep well or sleep enough have poor maternal mental health, so the incidence of anxiety and depression is higher, and over time there is increased risk of weight gain. And for children, sleep too is important for them, because when children are sleep deprived, there's an increase in accidents. They too have an increased incidence of obesity, behavioral problems such as hyperactivity. They have learning problems, and they get sleep problems later in life. Um, Enough and good quality sleep is essential for healthy brain development. Because the baby dreams most of the time, this stimulates the baby's brain, assisting in the development of the brain. And the first year of life is crucial for developing good sleep skills, because it's in this early months that a baby's sleep patterns mature quickly, and it sets the stage for years to come. So if a baby has sleeping problems, they're more likely to have sleeping problems later in life. And there's also health and emotional problems like anxiety and depression as well. And this is what I often tell my parents, that sleep deprivation is an effective form of torture, and it does work. If someone is taken into captivity now and they want to get some information out of them, one of the things they'll do is to deprive them of sleep. And the minute we don't sleep for a period, then we start to do weird things. So, why torture ourselves by not giving ourselves enough sleep? So, I'll talk about briefly the sleep cycle. All humans, adults and children, sleeping cycles, and the sleep cycles, two basic states. So the two main parts of sleep are the non-rapid eye movement or NREM sleep or quiet sleep, and it covers the first 4 stages of sleep. The rapid eye movement or REM sleep is the active phase, and it's called stage 5 of sleep. So the first stage is called light sleep, and then a person who's in this stage drifts in and out to sleep. They're easily woken, they're easily rousable. Then I move on to stage 2 of sleep, and this is around 50% of the time spent sleeping is in this stage, and this is where eye movement stops. Stage 3 is the first stage of deep sleep, and it's difficult to rouse a person from this stage. And then one moves on to stage 4, the second stage of deep sleep, and it's very difficult to wake a person up. So these 4 stages make up non-random rapid eye movement sleep. Then the stage 5 is the REM sleep, the rapid eye movement sleep, and this is where dreaming occurs. Breathing becomes fast, irregular, and shallow, and the eyes move rapidly. So this is also called active sleep. About 20% of sleep time is spent in this stage of sleep. So I'll just show you briefly or quickly what the sleep cycle looks like. So that's how over a period of 7 hours. So that's what the sleep cycle looks like. And I don't know if you'll notice, as the sleep period lengthens, we get more REM sleep, but we also get prolonged periods of deep sleep as we progress through the cycles of sleep. Each sleep cycle in an adult lasts about 90 minutes. So in a 7 to 8 hour period of sleep, an adult would have about 5 sleep cycles. But a newborn sleep cycle is a bit shorter, it's about 50 to 60 minutes long. But by the age of 3 months, this will increase to 90-minute cycles, the same as an adult. So, what are some reasons for poor sleeping patterns? Well, between each sleep cycle, there is a brief period of awakening, and this is essential for survival. People who do have pets will probably notice this. The pet sleeps, and every so often they wake up, look around them, and they go back to sleep. Well, babies do the same. They wake up between cycles, but if they wake up and there's been a change in the surroundings, they may not go back to sleep. So when they wake up and everything is as they expect it to be, there's no change in the environment, they just go straight back to sleep, and they have no recollection of waking up at the end of the sleep. So a baby may have fallen asleep in the mother's arms, wakes up and finds that they're now in a cot, and they look around, the parent is not there, and they'll get upset and cry. So this is one of the reasons why babies wake up. They could wake up in between sleep cycles. Another reason for poor sleep patterns is sleep associations. A sleep association is anything that baby associates with sleep. So these include unhelpful sleep associations are responsible for poor sleeping patterns. So cuddling and rocking a baby to sleep, or falling asleep on the breast or whilst feeding. Poor bedtime routines also would contribute to poor sleeping patterns, or parents' inconsistent behavior. So every night a baby goes to sleep at different times. This would impact on the sleep pattern. So how can we manage poor sleeping patterns? The first thing is obviously assess the situation. You don't know how to manage it unless an assessment is undertaken. And one way one can assess is by using this tool. So it's just to see actually when does baby sleep. Do they have any daytime naps? If they do, when do they go off and when do they wake? In the evening, when do the bedtime routines start? And what time do you eventually put your baby to bed? What time does the baby sleep when you put them to bed, and what time do they wake up? And what's the total number of hours of sleep the baby gets? So, this can be done for a whole week, so you know exactly what is happening. And then one is able to give advice based on what is happening. So once the assessment has been undertaken, the next thing to do is to help parents get to know their baby and to know what's normal and what isn't. And this is where the baby states come into play. And there are 6 baby states. Throughout the day, a baby moves through different levels of sleepiness or wakefulness. And they're called states, and they're 6 in number. So there's the deep sleep, the light sleep, baby's drowsy, baby could be quite alert, active alert, and crying. So I'll talk through this 6 states, but what one does is to get the parents to observe and record the different states their baby is in so they can get to know their baby. So the first state there is the deep sleep, and this is a very important state for babies as they grow the most. In this state, the baby's eyes are closed and the baby lies still. Breathing is steady and regular, and the baby's hard to rouse. It's important that parents are advised that babies should not be disturbed or woken up to feed or play in this state. A baby does need this to be in this state to grow. Then you move on to the light sleep or the active sleep, and this is the same as the rapid eye movement sleep. So baby's eyes are closed, but the eyes may flutter under the eyelids, and this is a rapid eye movement sleep. Baby may also show some body or facial movements and is easy to rouse. A baby too may display some sucking or smiling movements or whine, but this doesn't necessarily mean that the baby is hungry. The next state is the drowsy state or dozing state. And in this state, the baby's half awake. Eyes are open, but the baby remains drowsy. As the baby is not fully awake, he may fall back to sleep again. So it's always best to allow the baby to fully awake themselves. The quiet alert stage, this is the best state for a parent to perform any activity with the baby, because the baby's eyes are wide and the face is bright. Baby may be slightly active. It's best state to feed baby or enjoy play. The next state is the active alert stage, and in this state, baby is very active. They're more responsive to sound, and this may be a good time to feed baby, especially at night. If the baby is fretful, parents could try slowing down or give baby a break. So parents should observe for baby cues to know whether baby is fed up or not. The crying state is the easiest state to identify because obviously the baby is crying. But with this state, it's important that parents remember that crying is the main way that a baby communicates his needs. So baby will cry when they're tired, hungry, cold, hot, sick, bored, they're scared, they're lonely. Whenever a baby is uncomfortable, a baby would signal this to the parents by crying. But parents do need to be patient. Eventually, they'll learn to interpret their baby's cry, and the baby would learn to trust them. It's also important that parents recognize that crying is not an indication of how they're parenting. A baby's just crying just to communicate their needs, their discomfort. So once a parent gets to know their baby, then it's important as a professional or practitioner to educate them. One of the first things is to prepare parents. It's important that parents know that in the first few weeks of life, the longest sleep period a baby will get is about 4 hours, because the sleep patterns are still influenced by feeding patterns. So when the baby is hungry, the baby would feed and will digest food, and then tummy's empty and becomes hungry again. So baby's not going to get a lot of sleep. But by about 4 months, this will go up to about 8 hours, because by this stage, the internal circadian rhythms have developed. There's also an increase in the production of melatonin, which help regulate sleep. So it's important that parents know that they're not going to be getting a lot of sleep, and that actually this is normal for a baby at this age. So I just put a little grid there, just explaining roughly how much sleep a baby will get at different ages, night and day sleep. So as you can see, in the first 3 months, there's no pattern to sleep. Baby would sleep and wake. Most of the time it's determined by feeding. So if baby's going through a growth spurt, they're going to sleep less and be waking up more frequently. It's important to stress with this grid that it's just they're just a rough guide, because sometimes parents get something and think that's what their baby's going to do, exactly what their baby's going to do. If a parent is still having problems with sleep, it's important that they keep a diary of their baby or toddler's sleep, so they could discuss this with the health visitor at the next visit. It's important that a parent recognizes the fact that every baby is unique. Sometimes parents attend clinic because they feel they're struggling to help their baby sleep, because maybe the older children, they slept better at that age and the new child is not. So sometimes we do make comparisons when we're not meant to. As such, a baby, because we're all unique, every baby's unique. Some babies require more or less sleep. It's also important to remember that a baby has no set routine after birth. So a baby has to be taught to sleep, or taught a routine. It's always best to wait until breastfeeding is established, and that's why I recommend that from about 3 months is a good time to start a good bedtime routine. So a parent has to teach a child when they want them to sleep and get into that routine. And the importance of a bedtime routine is to help baby wind down. This should last about 20 to 30 minutes and no longer than 45 minutes. Bath, story time, baby massage, lullaby, saying goodnight to everyone, obviously depending on the age of the child, are things to incorporate into the bedtime routine. Once the bedtime routine is completed, then the baby should be settled down in the bed in the cot or crib to promote self-settling. It's important to reduce the noise and the light and any social interaction. Avoid feeding or any unhelpful sleep associations. So we don't want to be feeding a baby around that time or cuddling them, otherwise they'll associate that action with sleep and learn to sleep that way. And I'll move on to some common toddler sleep problems, and I'll focus on 3 main ones. So the toddler does not sleep after putting them to bed, or they keep waking up in the middle of the night. Or for the independent toddler, they just keep crawling out into the parent's bed at night. In the first instance, the toddler not sleeping after putting them to bed, this is because the toddler loves the parents. It doesn't want to be separated from them. At this age, they probably have separation anxiety. So the parent puts the child to bed. He cries, makes the parent feel guilty that they've abandoned him. And they pick him up and then he stops. They put him down again after reassuring him. It cries again, louder, appears to rev up the engine of the cry. This continues for a period. And then parents get tired, they give in, and guess what? The toddler is in their beds. With the second one, the toddler keeps waking up in the middle of the night. The toddler may settle to sleep, but they may wake up in between sleep cycles. They look around, they don't see their parents, they cry. But because it's late in the night, the cry just sounds so loud. Parents run to them, try and settle them, but they don't settle because they're tired, they're exhausted, they need their sleep too. So they just take the babies into their beds. In the third instant, the toddler obviously is an independent toddler. They can walk. So they wake up at night, look around, mommy and daddy, they're not there. They don't even bother crying. They just, because they're independent, they just get themselves out of the cot and help themselves into their parents' beds. So those are some common sleep problems. Some other causes of sleep problems may be a sick child or unwell child, or colic. The gripey pains that a baby may have may keep them from sleeping. Any change in diet, so weaning time. Some children may have allergies to foods that are given, and that may keep them up. A change in the environment or routine. So sometimes a baby's sleeping well, and parents move house or go on holiday or come back from holiday, and the baby stops sleeping as they used to, or any change in the routine. And then we have the sleep disorders, things like night terrors, nightmares, sleep apnea, and other things like that. In order to manage sleep problems, these two things are essential: consistency and persistent. To keep doing the same thing and to persist at it. Because a parent doesn't want to give the baby mixed messages. So it's very important, if it's a routine, it has to be the same time every night, and to keep at it until one succeeds. So how can one manage sleep problems? It's essential. The baby has a good bedtime routine. Avoid unhelpful sleep association. Be patient. Every child's different. Every child's unique. So one may have to work harder with one child, and some other children are easy to teach how to sleep. It's important to teach the baby to self settle as soon as possible. Obviously from about 3 months, so they learn to settle. Understand toddler behavior and be firm with the toddler. It's hard, but it's very important that a toddler is taught to sleep. So I'll just talk quickly about toddler behavior in relation to sleep, and I'll use the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the move from dependence to independence. So when a baby is first born, the main priority is to survive outside the womb. So the focus is on feeds, keeping them warm, enabling their respiration, let me breathe and let me sleep. So that's what the baby is saying, the newborn. Eventually, over time, they move on to the next level of the triangle. The priority is to feel safe, protect me, help me feel safe and secure. So once all those physical needs are met, then they want their safety needs to be met. Over time, once the parents prove themselves, then the baby's focus is on love and belonging. So they want the parents to show they care and to love them abundantly. Then they move up to the next level of the triangle, and it's the need to feel good about themselves. So by this stage, they're developing more independence and they want to explore safely. Eventually, they're on their feet or they're crawling, and their need is to be free. So they want more independence. So they want to choose when they want to sleep and when they don't want to sleep. And this is why sometimes the baby has slept very well, and then there's sleep problems in the toddlerhood stage. There's several methods of managing sleep problems, but I'm going to focus on two. The control crying, and that is recommended from 8 months. Um, Allow the toddler to cry for a while, then reassure them before putting back to sleep. But if the toddler keeps crying, keep extending the interval between going to reassure him. Although this is hard for parents, they love their babies or their toddlers to bits, but it's important to stress to parents that delayed gratification pays. For this method to succeed as well, it's important that you don't touch the child. What the child wants is to be cuddled. So every time the parent goes back to reassure the baby, it's important not to touch them. Otherwise, they would just rev up the engine and cry even more. And another method is the gradual retreat. And this is kind of almost the opposite of the control crying. So the control crying is kind of a more painful experience for the child. But the gradual retreat is you gradually move away from the child. So it's based on the concept of parents slowly distracting themselves from their child. So parents adopt different degrees of physical closeness in order to help their child sleep independently, with the aim of moving on to the next degree of physical separation until the parents are out of the room. And this is more for parents. This is for parents who want a gentle or slow approach. Some parents may find the control crying such a painful experience. So rather than leaving the child and then going to manage their pain periodically, they think, let me gradually leave the child. So a parent may start with cuddling the baby and then leave them, then stay 50 centimeters away from the cot for a few days, then move on to 1 meter until they just gradually move out of the room. Every time the child wakes up, I'm still here, they're in the room. That reassures the child until one day they're actually out of the room. So it takes longer, but it's for parents who think, oh, I can't watch my baby crying, and I prefer to do it the gentle and the slow way. It's important as well that as practitioners we support parents. So we can encourage them not to feel guilty about being firm. Oh goodness, I left my baby crying. People feel guilty about causing pain. Highlight the benefits of sleep for them and for their infants, and toddlers. That the baby needs to sleep in order for the brain to grow and develop healthily, and so do they. They need to sleep as well so that they can be fully recharged, have their batteries recharged. So yes, it's a difficult process to teach their child or their babies to sleep, but it will pay off. So just keep at it, and it's going to benefit everybody, the child as well as them. Enable them to promote good sleep habits and encourage them to be consistent and persistent. But sometimes, despite all these and despite trying everything, some sleep problems may persist, and this is where a community practitioner would refer for specialist help. It's also important to signpost them to evidence-based resources. Yes, the health sister is very experienced and has a lot of resources, but there's so many other resources out there, especially with the internet. So, but it's important to signpost them to the evidence-based one because there's so much conflicting advice on the internet. So one of the useful ones is the NHS Choices, and there's so many parenting videos. An example there, I've put a link there. How can I get my baby to sleep? So if you click on that link, you would see a short video on what parents can do to help their baby sleep. The good thing about the NHS Choices website is that parents can register and put the age of their babies, and they would actually get videos sent to them, age-appropriate videos for their child's development to on a periodic basis. So for more information, Those two websites, www.tuningtoyourbaby.co.uk and www.tuningtoyourbaby.com. If there is any question, feel free to email me on that at that email address, ruth@tuningtoyourbaby.com, or that's my mobile number, 07955873565. At the www.tuningtoyourbaby.co.uk, there's more information about the book Tuning to Your Baby, but you can also download the first chapter of the book and the contents at free of charge. And I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. The CPHVA they do have a CPD. It's called CPHVA CPD. And last year's conference it was launched #CPHVA CPD, and they're currently testing on the Community Practitioner Journal website. So CPHVA members will be able to take a module as part of today's training session. They'll be able to access it next week by going to http //www.communitypractitioner.com, and included in it is some multiple choice questions and an area for reflection. Once completed, the members will be able to store or download their certificate. And how to stay in touch with Unite and keep up to date. The website is www.unite.org/health. It's important you make sure your membership details are up to date, and you can come the two numbers there for UK and the Republic of Ireland. Click onto the member login area at the top right hand corner of the website to register and update your account. If you receive one of the journals, the Community Practitioner or Mental Health Nursing, please make sure you read it because there's loads of invaluable information. You can also follow on Twitter or register on Facebook. Those are the links. And in the Save Our NHS campaign, there's a link for that as well. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll hopefully hear from you. And I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you.